Here I'm going to go through a brief walkthrough on how to set up the conference for the SALA room. Here you can see I got my laptop and it's ready to go. The key takeaway here is you have your plugins into your port, HDMI 2, SD-D1, that's your data port, and then the tag that says hub, that's going to allow you to tap into the hub that controls the camera, that controls the microphone array, and also controls the keyboard. Okay, so first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and grab my HDMI cable. I'm going to take the HDMI cable and plug that in. Now that I got that plugged in, the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go and get my USB. You see it has two type A connections. I'm going to plug that into where it says hub. And I'm going to take the other part of the USB connector and I'm going to plug that into my computer. Now that I've done that, what that's doing is that's connecting me to this hub, which is our next point. The hub is going to connect you to the microphone array, and it's also going to connect you to the camera, and it's also going to connect you to the wireless keyboard. Right now everything's powered off. I'm going to power on this port, and this port. Now that all three of these ports are connected, everything's active. It's been acknowledged by my laptop. Next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to plug in my data cable. And the data cable isn't required, but it's for stability purposes. Seeing that our camera shoots in 4K, it uses a lot more bandwidth. And if you have more hosts on your meeting, that can suck up more bandwidth. So to stabilize everything, it's recommended that you plug in hardwired to the network. Once you do that, next thing is grab your remote, power on the TV, and you can see here now the monitor is mirroring what's on my computer. Now I have access to the wireless keyboard. This will allow me to use the touchpad and the keyboard wirelessly to one of these tables, and I'll be able to control it from here. If it's not responding, one of the main things is you probably have it off. Here I'm going to turn it on. Now it's on. And then you can see here I'm able to move around stuff on the keyboard wirelessly. Another key takeaway is you want to make sure you're no further than this door right here when you're doing the motion gestures for the 4K camera. Once you go past this distance, the camera starts to get confused because there's a lot of stuff in this scene and the AI has a harder time picking it up. This is the audio controller. Note that you have two settings. One is for audio out 1 and audio out 2. When it's pushed in, audio out 1 is selected. That is the only selection that we need. And then you have a mute button right here. That mute button, when you push that, blocks the rest of the microphones located in the ceiling that pick up the rest of the room. So if you want to minimize any of the background noises, that's how you would do that. Okay, so that's your mute button. You can unmute if somebody in the back of the audience is talking and you want them to be heard. Simply unclick that and unmute them, and you're good. And then you can turn the mic volumes up or down in the back, just like that. Okay, so the next thing is to set up the meeting. In this example, I'm going to use Google Meet. Select New Meeting. I'm going to join it. Once I got it joined, you can see by default, if you plugged in everything correctly into the hub, the OSBot should be selected. Here I'm going to go and double check my settings. Under settings for the microphones, you're going to want to make sure that it's microphone USB PNP audio device. That's going to connect you to the microphone array. The OSBot, that camera, has its own microphone as well. But in this case, we're going to use the microphone array, allowing us to not only capture what the host is saying, but also capture the back of the audience if need be. So I'm going to go ahead and select that. For video, we're going to make sure that it's an OSBot 4K camera. Once that's selected, you have everything right here. Now in this example, you're going to see me do some of the motion controls. One of the key takeaways here is you're going to hold your hand by your face. This motion is going to allow you to lock onto your target. Camera's going to select blue, saying that it acknowledged the motion. Now it's going to follow me around. Or no, now the camera's locked. I'm going to go ahead and the camera's going to acknowledge it to track me. Now it's tracking me. Okay, the next motion is zoom. You're going to hold your hand like this with an L. And once the camera sees that, it's harder behind color. Once the camera sees that, it's going to start to zoom in. Okay, and then if you want to zoom back out, you can go ahead and hit this. And then if you want to lock your target, you go ahead and hold your hand like this, and now the target's locked. Oh, sorry. After that, go ahead. Now it's motion control again. And then I'm going to zoom out. And there you go. So there's a couple of examples. If you have any other questions, please feel free to reach out.